A violent attack stirs southern Israel as Hamas gunmen unleash terror on the Be'eri Kibbutz. Over a grueling 20-hour period, the assailants terrorized the community, with the chilling ordeal documented in real time by a group of brave mothers. Their WhatsApp chat, shared with the world, paints a vivid picture of the terrifying ordeal, revealing the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the unnerving sight of homes ablaze. As the women huddled in their safe rooms, they used their cell phones to offer each other advice and comfort amidst the escalating violence. Yet as hours turned into a full day, the hope for timely rescue by the Israeli state waned, triggering desperation and fear. The aftermath? An estimated 100 lives lost, countless taken hostage, and a once peaceful community left in ruins. The resilience of these women in the face of such terror is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Their stories, shared in this intimate chat, highlight not just the horror of the attack, but the unbreakable spirit of a community united in crisis. This is a developing story, and we're keeping a close eye on the situation as it unfolds. Hello, everyone! Reporting from the heart of New York City, this is your host, Emily.
And joining in from sunny San Francisco, this is David.
We've got a lot in store for you today on Hot Topic. Make sure to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications to stay up to date on all the hottest news. Without further ado, let's get straight to our hot topics. Shortly after sunrise on an otherwise ordinary Saturday, October 7, 2023, a day of unspeakable terror began for the residents of Be'eri Kibbutz in southern Israel. A group of Hamas militants had infiltrated the peaceful community, and for the next 20 hours, the neighborhood was a nightmare of gunfire, explosions, and smoke as the gunmen systematically attacked the residents. From safe rooms across the kibbutz, a group of mothers, connected via WhatsApp, bore witness to the evolving horror. They described the sounds of terror outside their doors, shared their shock and fear, and reassured each other even as they desperately called for help. They asked questions that had no answers. Where was the army? Why was help so long in coming? Could someone check on their loved ones? As the day wore on, their desperation became palpable. The group chat, renamed Be'eri Mother's Emergency, became a lifeline. It documented in chilling detail how the gunmen stalked and murdered residents, set homes ablaze, and took hostages. The chat also revealed their tenacity and determination to protect their families and support each other. Unfortunately, for some, this chat was their final communication. Many members are now unaccounted for, presumed either dead or missing. The survivors estimate that about 100 people were killed in the attack. In the face of such horror, the resilience and mutual support of these mothers are both inspiring and deeply tragic. Their stories, shared through the chat, underscore not just the terror of the day but also the strength of a community under siege, a strength that, in some cases, was all that stood between them and the unthinkable. Daphne Gerster, a 39-year-old resident of Germany, was visiting her family in Be'eri Kibbutz, the place she grew up in. The community, located near the Gaza border, was no stranger to missile attacks. However, when she was awakened by the sound of rockets at 6:30 in the morning, Daphne knew something was different. This time, the familiar alarm signaling an incoming missile was missing. Instead, there was a sound so loud and unfamiliar that it prompted her to ask her brother, "What is this?" Like others in the kibbutz, they rushed to their safe rooms, or mammoth, a room designed to withstand rocket attacks, made of reinforced concrete with airtight steel doors and windows. But this time, the threat was not just from the sky. Messages spread on the mother's WhatsApp group that someone had been shot, and armed men were roaming the streets. CCTV footage, which has been verified, shows a small group of militants arriving at the kibbutz gate just before 6 in the morning. A car arrives, the gate opens, and the militants charged in, shooting the occupants of the vehicle. Minutes later, the same militants can be seen casually walking through a square, guns at their side. 3 hours after first entering, the militants could still be seen in the kibbutz, adding a chilling reality to the scenes described in the WhatsApp group. As the residents barricaded themselves into their mammoths, a rising sense of dread on the chat preceded a horrific realization: many people were struggling to lock their safe room doors. With the threat now inside their homes, the sanctuary of the mammoths seemed to be slipping away. In the midst of the panic and terror, the women of the WhatsApp group were battling not only their fear but also the practicalities of securing their safe rooms. Amidst the confusion, a flurry of questions filled the chat. How do you lock these doors? Was there even a way to lock out a determined terrorist? For those struggling with these questions, photos with door locking tutorials were shared on the group. Michael Pinion, 44 years old, watched as her husband rushed out of the safe room to lock the front of their house. After hearing Arabic shouting and gunshots outside, he rushed back into the safe room, devising a makeshift locking device from ropes and a baseball bat, which he gripped for the nearly 19 hours they were holed up in the room. With gunmen prowling house to house, the chat group was filled with messages of frantic knocking on doors. Some corrected, it wasn't knocking, it was gunfire. It became painfully evident to the residents that they were under a massive, coordinated attack as they shared messages of their fear from different neighborhoods across the kibbutz. As the scale of the assault unfolded, posts filled with fear and frustration flooded the chat, asking where was the army and why it wasn't there yet. One woman wrote of her hope that the sounds of gunfire nearby were from the kibbutz's first response squad, a small unit that responds to intruder alerts before the military takes over. But Daphna's brother, Eitan Haddad, who was part of that unit, had left to help, leaving Daphna and her husband in the safety of their mamad. That was the last time she saw her brother. The 10-person response unit was clearly no match for the Hamas militants. As the hours passed, the situation inside the kibbutz worsened. The chat group messages, filled with reports of gunshots and Arabic voices outside, began to include desperate pleas for help. You can almost feel the palpable fear in a message from a resident who wrote, "I'm home alone and I'm really scared." Elsewhere, Guten Tag was doing her best to comfort her young daughters aged 8 and 5. Despite her own shock and fear, she knew she needed to remain calm for them, telling them, "It's okay. It's going to be okay." The Hamas militants were now breaking into houses and threatening the supposedly safe rooms. Terrified residents sent urgent pleas for aid through the chat group. Among them was Michael, who was also in contact with her own family in another group chat, a harrowing record of their experience. Around 9:30 in the morning, Michael's mother reported hearing Arabic voices outside their house. Within 15 minutes, she revealed that Michael's father had been injured. Despite trying to remain silent, Michael couldn't help but call her mother. The response she received was chilling. "They're here, they shot Dad, he's not okay," and then she hung up, Michael said. Michael's mother sent a final plea for help at 10:15. After that, her messages stopped. Michael's parents had been killed in the attack. As she faced this horrific reality, Michael continued posting messages in a desperate hope of rescuing her parents. She was not alone. Many others were pleading for someone, anyone, to check on their loved ones. The onslaught didn't stop at guns and grenades. The militants also set homes on fire. Desperate messages filled the chat group. "The entire house is smoke," one resident wrote. "What should I do? Tell me what to do." Others reported fires inside their safe rooms, with smoke making it impossible to see or breathe. One of the houses set ablaze was the home of Daphna's disabled father, Mayor Haddad. His Filipina caregiver, 52-year-old Bing Sol, was pleading for help in their family chat. "They're here," she wrote, indicating the presence of Hamas. They looted the home before setting it on fire. The safe room was full of smoke. "I keep on asking everyone to help us because maybe we'll be burnt alive. But nobody could help us because everyone is terrified," Bing recounted later. In the face of such overwhelming fear and helplessness, the residents turned to each other for support and survival tips, much like they had done in this group for years. One resident, unable to breathe due to smoke, was advised to put a wet cloth or even urine on their face. Another was told to stay in the safe room with a cloth over their nose. And then there was 44-year-old Golan Abidbol. While his family took shelter in their safe room, he stood guard in their kitchen, gun in hand, as he watched Hamas militants throw a Molotov cocktail at another building. "I was pumped up with adrenaline. If someone came to my house, I would give them the fight of my life," he says. Shielding his family in their safe room, Golan Abidbol displayed the essence of the kibbutz spirit. We are one big family. If we need to open our door when there are terrorists outside and let the neighbors get in so they can survive, we will do it. No one even hesitated, he says. When a couple of men tried to break into his house, Golan fired his gun. They responded with a burst of fire and then, for some unknown reason, they decided to retreat. On the other hand, Bing Sol and Mayor Haddad's situation was dire. Their house was burning and the safe room was filled with smoke. In a desperate attempt to get some air, Bing opened a window. She also had to hold the door with a blanket to prevent the militants from breaking it down.
Can you provide an example of how the residents tried to stay alive amidst the chaos?
Yes, indeed. For instance, in Bing and Mayer's case, what seemed to be a miracle happened. As they were suffocating in the smoke-filled room, a crack appeared in the ceiling and water started to drip onto Mayer's head. This small relief brought them some joy amidst the terror. They could hear Hamas militants laughing and rejoicing as they took hostages. The mother's chat was filled with terrifying messages, one of which revealed that people were being kidnapped. The situation was indeed grim. Footage verified by the BBC showed militants leading 5 hostages down the road in Be'eri Kibbutz. Israel reports that a total of 150 people have been kidnapped and taken to Gaza, but the exact number taken from Be'eri Kibbutz remains unclear. As the situation escalated, the residents endured an agonizing wait for the army to arrive. Shur Guten Tag was among those who had to bear witness to the horrors unfolding around them while trying to comfort her daughters. Gut-wrenching voice messages detailed unthinkable tragedies. One woman reported her baby daughter was dead and cried for help. Another woman watched her mother being killed and hid in the safe room, whispering for help, saying she didn't want to die. Still, others reported horrific injuries. Despite the chaos, the community's spirit held strong. Shur and others continued to support one another. She made quiet calls to neighbors who seemed to be in distress, whispering encouragements to breathe in sync with her. Others in the group did the same. The power of this unity was evident when Shur dismantled her barricade to let in neighbors as their homes filled with smoke. Amidst the uncertainty, parents tried to comfort their children, offering quiet kisses and hugs, while the chat group provided advice on how to calm the little ones. In the afternoon, there were messages suggesting that Israeli defense forces had arrived and were making progress. But fear was still rampant as residents continued to seek help, posting their addresses and brief information about their situations. The arrival of the Israeli Defense Forces brought a swirl of confusion rather than immediate relief. How many soldiers had arrived? Were they an organized group capable of handling the situation? Reports of shouts of IDF, IDF outside caused further uncertainty as residents feared that it could be Hamas militants in disguise. This situation was described by Golan Abitbol, who texted his neighbors warning that those shouting IDF, IDF outside were not Israeli soldiers. They had an accent and the uniforms they wore didn't look right. As evening approached, the tone of the messages in the chat group shifted. More Hebrew voices could be heard, and there was a sense of hope. It had been almost an entire day of waiting for help, and now that it had finally arrived, residents were trying to coordinate with the soldiers, suggesting locations for them to go and fight. Around 6 in the evening, Bing Sol and Mayor Haddad were finally rescued from their safe room. The house where the family had been playing board games the night before was now nothing more than ashes. Yet they had survived, trapped in a tiny room while everything around them was destroyed. As soldiers led them away, Bing took a photo of what remained of her home. In the chat group, a message at 8:06 in the evening signaled the beginning of an evacuation process. This was followed by the first messages from people saying they had been saved. Yet the process was slow, and many continued to plead for help well into the evening. One message just after 7 read, "Lots of bullets here too. It doesn't stop. Please, they're here." The situation remained dire even with the military intervention. For many, the fear of letting in Hamas disguised as soldiers was real. Code words were shared amongst the group to verify the true identity of the soldiers. Yet, the sounds of gun battles continued to echo around them, and trust became a scarce commodity. Getting to safety was a painstakingly slow process. When soldiers came to Michael's home, she initially refused to open the door. It was only after an emergency unit from the kibbutz assured her they were truly soldiers that she agreed to let them in. They were led out of the kibbutz, soldiers forming a circle around the family, and advised to shield their children's eyes from the bodies that lay outside. The horror, though, was not over. As they waited to be taken to safety, a gunman opened fire nearby. They were eventually transported to a nearby town and then to a hotel at the Dead Sea. For some, the cost was too high. Daphne discovered that her brother had lost his life in the chaos. Wow. I can't help but be moved by the rapidly changing world of hot-off-the-press news. Such life-altering events, such human resilience, such breaking headlines. It truly is astounding, isn't it? What's your take, dear listeners? Are you finding these revelations as compelling as I am? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do hit that like button and leave your comments. Let's continue to explore these critical developments together. Thanks a ton for tuning in. Let's continue. And the story concludes on a note of profound uncertainty. A haunting voice note, "I need help," became the last message that BBC saw from one resident on the WhatsApp chat, whose friends now believe she is either dead or kidnapped. Residents look back to a life where their community was a paradise, a beautiful landscape, a tight-knit community of mothers and friends who relied on each other and watched out for their neighbors. The strength to endure this ordeal, they say, is drawn from their shattered community, and the memory of those who have been lost is etched deep. Golan Abidbol, one of the residents, said, "They are our friends, they are our family, they are everything to us. We know them. They have been part of our lives since we were born, and we want them back." Their community, built over decades in the kibbutz Be'eri, now feels broken. Many do not know where to go or what to do next. Daphne, one of the survivors, said, "I don't know if we'll even have a home to go to after this. We were living in an illusion that we were safe." This story is a stark reminder of how quickly a paradise, built over decades, can come crashing down. It's an illustration of the vulnerability that lies beneath our illusions of safety and security in this rapidly changing world. But as we near the end of our report, let's not forget the resilience of the human spirit and the power of community. Even in the face of adversity, the human spirit continues to shine. Let's keep this in mind as we move towards the conclusion of today's episode. Stay tuned, dear listeners. We'll be wrapping up soon. Thanks to all of you for tuning into Hot Topic today. We've navigated through some intense currents of breaking news, and it's been wonderful sharing this journey with you. Remember to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's make sure you never miss a moment. Sharing is caring, folks. Pass our channel along to your fellow news enthusiasts on all your social media outlets, spread the word, and let's spark more thought-provoking conversations. Thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode, and don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments.
Absolutely, and remember, we're here every day, come rain or shine. So, make sure to add us to your daily routine. Believe me when I say, you never know what exciting tidbit of news you'll stumble upon with us. There's a whole world of stories waiting to be told, and, trust me, you won't want to miss it.
Your support is invaluable to us, and we look forward to sharing more insightful episodes with you down the line.
Indeed. As they say, news never sleeps, and neither do we. Well, technically we do, but you get the point. Smith, stay in the loop, keep your eyes on the news, our channel's content will amuse. Thank you and catch you on the next episode.